Today, the church celebrates Mothering Sunday, and there are two aspects to this. One of these is that it's giving thanks for the motherhood of the church, which nurtures its members over the generations. And also, of course, it's giving thanks for our biological mothers. Now, your immediate response to this might be to say that the mothering provided by the church has been conflicted at best over the generations. And as for human biological mothers, they can come in all shapes and sizes, from the extremely good and nurturing and caring to the overwhelmingly smothering at the other extreme, from the well-balanced in their mothering to the negligent, accidental, or even abusive. And as for the church, where do we begin? Now, I have to say that my own experience of motherhood and of the motherhood of the church has been entirely positive. And so I do hesitate to trespass perhaps on the experience of those whose experience has been very different. But I would want to say one thing, firstly about the motherhood of the church. For all its faults over the many hundreds of years, and for the damage that church people have caused to others, right up to our own generation, the church is the container for something very precious, which is the revelation of Jesus Christ, the light of Christ, and the teachings of the Gospels. The church has kept these alive and built on them through reflection, through prayer, and through action. And that basic thing is something to be grateful for. Now, it's very difficult to say this because, of course, if your experience of the church has been entirely negative, you may simply be offended by what I'm saying, but I believe it to be true. The church, at the very least, given by God, is a container for the truth of revelation. And I don't really see how we could have come across it in any other way. And with regard to human motherhood, again, I have to be very, very tentative here, because my own experience of having a mother has been so positive and wonderful. But I think there is, I don't want to call it gratitude, but there is the fact that any human mother, however accidental, abusive, negligent, absent, or whatever else, has invested pain and self-sacrificial time in producing the child, which is you. You came into existence through that process. And I think we can say that, is that something to be grateful for? It's certainly something to appreciate. And for most of us, thank God, our experiences of having mothers has been very much more positive than that. But another thing springs to mind about this biological motherhood, and that is that it tells me that at the heart of reality, the reality of being human, is not individualism and competition. Indeed, at the heart, perhaps, of mammalian life at least, it's not individualism and competition, but it is the giving of something, the self-sacrificial giving of life of one member of the species to the other, and that's how life continues. And so the very heart of reality, which I believe to be God-given, there is something giving, something self-sacrificial, something essentially socially cooperative rather than individualistic and competitive. And that is not an argument from design for the existence of God, but it's certainly something worth reflecting on when we look at the world around us and we see it so full of pain and competition and loneliness and individualism. There is at its root something that is quite giving, and that is reflected in the mere biological fact of motherhood. But one thing I get from the biblical revelation and from the Christian tradition, and indeed experience of wonderful people I've met in my own life, is that biological motherhood does not have to stay at the biological level. And in both the readings set for Mothering Sunday, the ones I've chosen anyway, this transcendence of the biological is reflected very nicely. Firstly, in Exodus chapter 2, we have the story, the terrible story in many ways, of the genocidal massacre of the Jewish children by Pharaoh, and the wonderful rescue of the baby Moses, who, because his mother loves him, she tries to save his life by putting him in a basket and floating him down the Nile. And because of strong maternal feelings, Pharaoh's daughter rescues him. And Pharaoh's daughter is not biologically related to him at all. She is, in fact, the daughter of the chief oppressor of the Jewish people. But she is the one who nurtures him as a mother. And in a very nice, ironic, and actually really quite funny twist to the story, Moses's sister Miriam, she's not named as Miriam in the story, but she is named to be Miriam later on. His sister Miriam sees him being rescued by Pharaoh's daughter, and she goes to Pharaoh's daughter and says, would you like me to find the baby a wet nurse? And Pharaoh's daughter says, thank you very much. And Miriam goes off and gets Moses' own mother, who comes in disguise. And so from a situation in which Moses is nearly killed, we come to a situation where his mother actually gets paid by the oppressor for wet nursing him. So there's and if that's not a result, I don't know what is. But moving on to the gospel story, we have, again, a background setting of something very terrible, which is a crucifixion of Jesus being witnessed by his beloved disciple, traditionally supposed to be John, and his mother, Mary. And one can just imagine the horror of that experience. But in this, there is something where the biological fact of motherhood is transcended. And whereas in the Exodus story, the love is from the mother to the child, or the mother figure to the child, Pharaoh's daughter, in this anecdote from the crucifixion, the chief direction of love is from the child to the mother. Not only Jesus reassuring Mary that ultimately she's going to be okay, even in this most terrible situation where all hopes have gone. She's seeing her son die in agony, and yet he's able to reassure her, and also to give to the beloved disciple a commission. He says, yes, woman, behold your son, indicating the mother-son relationship will be extended, but also to the disciple, behold your mother. And the story goes on, and from that time forth, the beloved disciple looked after Mary and gave her a place in his home. That is the extension of a biological relationship to something else. The beloved disciple, Mary, not related at all, and yet this relationship goes on, the mother-son relationship in which he looks after the increasingly frail and elderly mother of Jesus, as she traditionally was assumed to be, that she had quite a long life. And from this idea that the biological origins of motherhood tell us something about how God has created the world, to something going beyond the biological, I think is very important. Because what I would celebrate on Mothering Sunday is not just the motherhood of the church, the motherhood of my own mother, and my gratitude for both, but also my appreciation for all those who show a mother's love and care and nurturing concern towards people they're not even biologically related to. These may be stepmothers, those who adopt, those who just show a mother's love to the unloved. And this can transcend the boundaries, as it does in the story of Moses. It transcends the boundaries of enmity, where you can take in the child of the alien, the child of the enemy, and see there somebody vulnerable to whom you can give love. And this is something that I have seen time and again in my experience of life. People who have gone beyond the biological urge to have children and bring them up of their own, to show a mother's love to those whom they have no connection with at all. And there is something wonderful and lovely there, and there is something for me very much of God. Motherhood begins in the biological, by the grace of God, but also perhaps by the even greater grace of God, it doesn't end there, as we saw in the story of Jesus at his crucifixion, commending his mother to the care of his beloved disciple. May God bless you all, and may your day go well.